we are in Act 2, Scene 2. This is the most famous of probably the show, possibly of Shakespeare's whole career. Definitely top 5. This is the so-called balcony scene. Who would like to be Romeo?
Birthday boy.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, don't.
The greatest gift is the one Marat gives me.
And Juliet.
So that means Marat, of course, is volunteering as Juliet, right?
Yeah.
I only do Romeo. Marat's my Juliet.
And we have Nurse. She speaks a couple
Logan,
times.
are you chugging a bottle of Jack Daniels?
Oh yeah.
No, that is iced tea.
Iced tea.
Okay.
Pure, unsweetened iced tea.
I've seen this before. I'll be the nurse, I guess.
Okay. Cool. So we begin, and I'll be the stage directions as always. So from Capulet's garden, Romeo overhears Juliet express her love for him. When he answers her, they acknowledge their love and their desire to be married. So, scene 2, Romeo comes forward.
He jests at scars that never felt a wound.
Enter Juliet above.
But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who's already sick and pale with grief that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. Be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. It is my lady. Oh, it is my love. Oh, that she knew she were. She speaks, yet she says nothing. What of that? Her eye discourses. I will answer it. I am too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks. 2 of the fairest stars in all the heaven, having some business, do entreat her eyes to twinkle in their spheres till they return. What if her eyes were there, they in her head? The brightness of her cheek would shame those stars, as daylight doth a lamp. Her eye in heaven would through the airy region stream so bright that birds would sing and think it were not night. See how she leans her cheek upon her hand. Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek.
Ay me.
Aside.
She speaks. Oh, speak again, bright angel, for thou art as glorious to this night, being o'er my head, as is a winged messenger of heaven onto the white upturned wondering eyes of mortals that fall back to gaze on him when he bestrides the lazy puffing clouds and sails upon the bosom of the air.
Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name. Or, if thou wilt not, be but sworn by love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet.
Shall I hear more? Oh, sorry. Shall I hear more, or shall I speak at this?
'Tis by thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, thou not a Montague. What's Montague? It is nor hand nor foot, nor arm nor face. Oh, be some other name belonging to a man. What's in a name? That which we call a rose, by any other word would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear perfection which he owes. Without that title, Romeo, doff thy name, and for thy name, which is no part of thee, take all myself.
I take thee at thy word. Call me but love, and I'll be new baptized. Henceforth, I never will be Romeo.
What man art thou that thus be screened in night? So stumblest on my counsel.
By a name I know not how to tell thee who I am. My name, dear saint, is hateful to myself, because it is an enemy to thee. Had I it written, I would tear the word.
My ears have yet not drunk 100 words of thy tongue's uttering, yet I know the sound. Art thou not Romeo, and a Montague?
Neither, fair maid, if either thee dislike.
How camest thou hither? Tell me, and wherefore? The orchard walls are high and hard to climb, and the place death, considering who thou art, if any of my kinsmen find thee here.
With love's light wings did I o'erperch these walls, for stony limits cannot hold love out, and what love can do, that dares love attempt. Therefore thy kinsmen's are no stop to me.
If they do see thee, they will murder thee.
Alack, there lies more peril in thine eye than 20 of their swords. Look thou but sweet, and I am proof against their enmity.
I would not for the world they saw thee here.
I have night's cloak to hide me from their eyes, and, but thou love me, let them bind me here. My life were better ended by their hate than death prorogued, wanting of thy love.
By whose direction foundest thou out this place? Oh, yeah.
By love that first did prompt me to inquire. He lent me counsel, and I lent him eyes. I am no pilot, yet wert thou as far as that vast shore washed with the farthest sea, I should adventure for such merchandise.
Thou knowest the mask of night is on my face, else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek. For that which thou hast heard me speak tonight, fain would I dwell on form, fain deny what I have spoke, but farewell compliments. Dost thou love me? I know thou wilt say ay or I, and I will take thy word. Yet, if thou swearest, thou mayest prove false. At lovers' perjuries, they say, Jove laughs. O gentle Romeo, if thou dost love, pronounce it faithfully. Or, if thou thinkest I am too quickly won, I'll frown and be perverse and say thee nay. So thou wilt woo, but else not for the world. In truth, fair Montague, I am too fond, and therefore thou mayest think my behavior light. But trust me, gentlemen, I'll prove more true than those that have more coying to be strange. I should have been more strange, I must confess. But that thou overhearest seer, I was ware. My true love passion, therefore pardon me, and not impute his yielding to light love, which the dark night hath so discovered.
Lady, by yonder blessed moon I vow, that tips with silver all these fruit tree tops.
Oh, swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon, that monthly changes in her circled orb, lest that thy love prove likewise variable.
What shall I swear by?
Do not swear at all, or, if thou wilt, swear by thy gracious self, which is the god of idolatry, and I'll believe thee.
If my heart's dear love...
Well, do not swear. Although I joy in thee, I have no joy of this contract tonight. It is too harsh, too unadvised, too sudden, too like the lightning which doth cease to be. Ere one can say, it lightens, sweet good night. This bud of love, by summer's ripening breath, may prove a beauteous flower when next we meet. Good night, as sweet repose and rest. Come to thy heart as thou within my breast. Ooh.
Oh, wilt thou leave me so unsatisfied?
What satisfaction can thou have tonight?
The exchange of thy love's faithful vow for mine.
I give thee mine before thou didst request it, and yet I would it were to give again.
Wouldst thou withdraw it? For what purpose, love?
But to be frank, and give it thee again, and yet I wish but for one thing I have. My bounty is as boundless as the sea, my love as deep. The more I give to thee, the more I have, for both are infinite.
From within, I'm calling.
From within, go. I hear some noise within. Dear love, adieu. Anon, good nurse. Sweet Montague, be true. Stay but a little, I will come again.
Juliet exits.
Oh, blessed, blessed night! I am afeard, being a knight, all this is but a dream, too flattering sweet to be substantial.
Re-enter Juliet above.
3 words, dear Romeo, and good night indeed. If that thy bent of love be honorable, thy purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow, by one that I'll procure to come to thee, where and what time thou wilt perform the rites, and all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay, and follow thee, my lord, throughout the world.
Madam.
Madam. I come, Anon, but if thou meanest not well, I do beseech thee.
Madam.
By and by I come, to seize thy strife and lead me to grief. Tomorrow will I send.
So thrive my soul!
1,000 times good night.
She exits.
1,000 times the worse to want thy light. Love goes toward love as schoolboys from their books, but love from love toward school with heavy looks.
Going, Enter Juliet above again.
This Romeo is. Oh, for our falconers, the voice to lure this tassel gentle back again. Bondage is hoarse. Bondage is hoarse and may not speak aloud. Else would I tear decay where echo lies, and make her airy tongue more hoarse than mine, with repetition of my Romeo.
It is my soul that calls upon my name. How silver sweet sound lovers' tongues by night, like softest music to attending ears.
Romeo,
My dear,
what o'clock tomorrow shall I send to thee?
by the hour of 9.
I will not fail. 'Tis 20 years o' then. I have forgot why I did call thee back.
Let me stand here till thou remember it.
I shall forget to have thee still stand there, remembering how I love thy company.
And I'll still stay to have thee still forgetting any other home but this.
'Tis almost morning. I would have thee gone, and get no further than a wanton's bird, that lets it hop a little from his hand, like a poor prisoner in his twisted gyves, and with a silken thread plucks it again, so loving jealous of his liberty.
I would I were thy bird.
Sweet, so would I. Yet I should kill thee with much cherishing. Good night, parting is such sweet sorrow, that I shall say good night till it be morrow.
She exits.
Finally.
Sleep dwell upon thine eyes, peace in thy breast. Would I were sleep in peace so sweet to rest. Hence will I to my ghostly friar's close cell, his help to crave and my dear hap to tell.
He exits. And Juliet enters once again. No. Just kidding.
God, honestly, I was just like, dude. I was like, nah.
I don't.
Then I was already like, nah. I do not enter anywhere.
It's the original staying up late all night texting your crush.
Yeah, but like,
Yeah.
my God.
No, you hang up. No,
No,
you
you hang up. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, did you go to sleep? Like, no.
You're still up?
Still up? Like, where are you?
This scene is so famous that it's really hard not to do some of the lines ironically. Because,
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
It's
not gonna
hard
lie.
to.
Does anyone take this seriously? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but has anyone
it's
ever
okay.
taken this scene seriously?
well, see, I think there's a trick there of it is a serious depiction of something that is ironically funny. You know, like
Yeah.
so you're taking the scene serious, but just depicting teenage flirting.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
Yes.
at one point, Romeo compares his wanting to spend time to Juliet with how much schoolboys don't want to study. Like it's very
Very on the nose.
Yeah. Similarly to, it's hard to take it seriously. It's also hard to find information that is not well known about this piece. But there's some things that we can talk about quickly for comprehension's sake. Obviously, they're just flirting with each other. Over and over and over and over. You can notice that the sun is about to rise. It does by the end. It's morning, which is fun because it begins with, I almost said Drew, with Romeo comparing Juliet to the sun. And then by the end, the sun arises.
One quick thing that occurred to me of, I feel like I've seen this line delivered a number of ways with the Juliet kind of dramatically staring off when she says, "Wherefore art thou, Romeo?" I think it's a problem. There are a couple lines in the scene where it makes sense even if you don't understand the word, but wherefore means why, it doesn't refer to location. They're just saying, why are you Romeo? Not in any way asking where someone is. That's just kind of like it sounds like where, so it's funny that he's hiding from her, but she's asking, why are you Romeo?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear what her dialogue there is about. She's wondering why, of all people, did the guy she has a crush on have to be from this enemy house that they have a vendetta with?
Mhm.
Just basically lamenting, God damn it, why?
God damn it.
It's basically
Yeah.
like stop being a Montague. If not, I'll stop being a Capulet. There's like no problem, but also like it's a big problem.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
I think
And
the
Yeah,
kind
she
of-
starts off the scene like as soon as she sees him quite reasonably saying, if my family finds you here, they're going to kill you. You should probably leave. I don't want that to happen.
I think I think the other kind of neat element, because there's that, which is kind of the prime meaning of the text. There's also, and I think this is also very true of teen flirting, the very like philosophizing element. Because I mean, she gets into the right of that, which you call a name by a rose. Any other name would be death sweet. All that of why are you Romeo? Both in the sense of why did it have to be Romeo, but also she goes into like the illusion of what we name things.
Mm.
I'm 14 and this is deep.
Yeah, she's like, names are just made up, man. Romeo, the name Romeo does not contain your body in it. You could call yourself anything.
You say that,
it's all made up, man.
Maybe I'm 14 and this is deep to me, but I was gonna say I love the what's in a name. That's what Rose, because he's calling her lovely by being like, what if roses are just beautiful like you and they don't need a name like you. It's just such a sly, subtle line that I'm like, ooh.
Well, I don't think the philosophy itself is stupid. It's just the bent towards philosophizing, I think, is also very apropos.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have something I want to say before we get too into it. Now, this is something that I learned about this scene today. Now, throughout, especially deeper into this, they keep talking about we should swear our love to each other, which actually means we should get married, which is, what they wanted to do at the time. Now, Juliet is not too excited about doing this too quickly right now. First of all, she's got lots of time. She's young. There's no pressing need to quite yet. That's going to change in a minute. But right now, she's like, we got time, relax. Now, back in the day, you didn't technically need to do anything to be married under the eye of God, because God sees all and etc. So you could just swear, we're married. I love you so much. We are now married. And then have sex right there, and it's totally good according to God.
Sounds good. Sure.
Now, that's not entirely good for Juliet's purposes as a noble woman, because there needs to be a witness for it to be like totally kosher. Mm-hmm. But if you were poor, if you were not noble, that's all you really had to do. So the undercutting here is that Romeo is like, swear your love to me right now, so that I can climb up there and we can immediately.
Hell yeah.
And Juliet is like, no, we have time. But he's like, I need to swear my love to you right now. I promise. I just love you so much. That's why. Because he just wants to immediately have sex right now.
I mean, he is 16, right?
Yeah.
I think he's 17, but yeah.
Ooh, worse.
Oh, huge difference.
Huge difference. Not gonna lie. Wait, so in that context, is the nurse serving as the witness? The inner nurse?
So Juliet refuses to swear at this time, right? She's like, I will not swear. I do not swear. She even says, I did swear, but I take it back. So she is waiting for the right moment. And we're going to see upcoming that Romeo and Juliet are going to have like a proper marriage with a witness and so on. So she's waiting for that. And that's going to be even more important when we realize that our favorite character, Paris, is going to throw a wrench in things.
Classic.
No, Paris is back with a vengeance.
Paris.
He's never gone. He's like a weird like constant in literature.
I have a fun fact too about this scene. There are multiple, there's many editions about Romeo and Juliet that are out there, and a few of the really bad ones have edited this scene the most, where they thought Juliet pointing out stuff like, we shouldn't do this. That Juliet kind of is pretty like rational in this scene. She's obviously still flirting and in love, but she wants to make it clear, like, let's not do this right now and swear to each other, like Tina's saying. And also like, we like each other. This is fine. Let's like just take the slow and easy path, which is probably the right thing to do. But in other versions, some people didn't like that Juliet was pushing back on what Romeo was saying. So they took away a bunch of her lines in this so that she was more demure and more accepting and just was like, oh, Romeo. And that's basically it. So this version, I believe, is accurate, which is nice because Juliet's character comes across as much more wise and mature than Romeo, who's meant to be like the passionate lover who can't think straight because he wants to have sex so badly.
Yeah, and what's funny is Shakespeare actually does a lot of gendered stuff in his plays. We talked a lot about this when, not that we did this on the channel, but when Marat and I read Macbeth together, because part of the reason why Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are like not doing it right, like they're a bad couple and they're evil, is because she's calling the shots and he's kind of like listening to her. And so what he's implying is like, that's not natural. And so they become murderers. That could be coming into play here too. Like Juliet's kind of calling the shots right here. If Romeo had his way, they would be having sex right now. And this obviously does not end up going well for them. Like Juliet kind of being more in charge. You know, it's not the thing that kills them.
Never simp.
Well, I mean, it's somehow I'm forgetting who the critic is who made this observation. Sound off in the comments. But I mean, it's a famous criticism applied to the buddy cop genre of films that typically, especially in male-targeted media and action media, the role of male characters is to generate drama and move the plot, and the role of female characters is to put up obstacles to the masculine progression of the plot. And so the appeal of the buddy cop genre is that it basically just writes out women, so it's just high octane all the way in a very strange way. But I mean, that's kind of what's happening throughout this plot, right? Is the hot-headed male characters are pushing things along, and then Juliet is in some ways consigned to the role of saying, well, but like, not yet, though. That has to wait till the fourth act.
Yeah. Also, I think, look, when it comes to Shakespeare as a writer, total genius. When it comes to Shakespeare as a human, this guy was a horn dog. Shakespeare, in my mind, totally was Romeo his whole life. Just constantly finding. So I don't think he's like, but what about the women I was seducing? I think he's like, man, I must have looked good while I did.
Almost looked sick.
Yeah.
Oh, she's playing hard to get. Okay.
It's tragic how hot we both were, you know.
See, I do like Juliet has a line basically being like, well, maybe I should be being more coy and playing hard to get and keeping you distant, but I don't feel like it.
Yeah, I love that too. It's so cool. I mean, it's cool that she like knows the game she's supposed to play. And like as a noblewoman, she's probably been trained in that. You know, she's about to start getting on the scene. So she knows what to do, what she's supposed to do.
There's an interesting, because in the previous couple chapters where Romeo opines at length, we've talked about the sort of Christian imagery he uses to talk about the chastity and purity of his love. But throughout this chapter, not only do they not typically refer to Christian images as much, they several times refer to symbols related to prostitutes, or I think at one point Juliet refers to a wanton, which is a kind of casually sexual lady. And I think at one point she refers to Romeo as the subject of her idolatry, which obviously idolatry is verboten in the Bible. Like they refer to Jove laughing at lovers. So in this case, they're no longer referring to their pure, chaste Christian love, but keep making a bunch of pagan references or prostitute references. I think there's even her Vestal livery is but sick and green, which there's a kind of straightforward element here of green being the color of envy, but the Vestal virgins were a group of priestesses in Rome. So you get another little pagan reference there through the W use the word Vestal, but also in contrast to virginal. Green, this is something that I don't know how much stock to put in it, and this is often used in discussion of the song Greensleeves, but apparently, according to some sources, green was a color associated with loose women and prostitutes again. So you get a contrast of her Vestal livery, which on the one hand connotes virginity through its association with Vestal virgins, and then
I saw some stuff about
looseness.
The green being with that, because there was like an STD at the time that would make you pale and kind of turn green, and so it was like associated with prostitutes because they would be more likely to get it. But of course they didn't know how germs worked back then, so they were just like, it's a sign of your sin.
Yeah.
So clearly they're both in the midst of their flirting, no longer talking about how pure and good their love is. They're like, let's be bad.
Yeah. Let's be bad.
Also very teenage thing to
Yeah.
do.
Oh yeah.
When they're not at the party anymore and it's really late at night and they're probably like sleep deprived and loopy, which happened to me a lot as a teenager when I would stay up super late.
Yeah, like did they stay up or did they go to sleep? Then Romeo was like, you
No,
know
because
what?
he wandered straight over from the party.
Yeah, so like this party gets out at like 2 a.m. They find each other and they're talking until sunrise.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I want to just, I think I mentioned, I don't know if this made it in the last video, but there is a great meta joke here. And I don't know if the viewers know what that is, but usually I like to think of it as a joke that isn't a joke in the text, but it's a joke intended by the author to be funny if you've been paying attention, like to how he's writing. And in the scene before this, Mercutio makes fun of Romeo for playing the part of a stereotypical lover and getting someone to say I, me, and make rhymes with like love and dove. And in this scene, Juliet responds with I, me. So Shakespeare is admitting that he is doing the stereotypical tropes and cliches at the time, but because he makes fun of himself for doing it in the scene before, it's brilliant and not just cheesy, which is what it would be if he just had it, according to Mercutio.
Kind of related to the connection to the last scene, we talked a lot with the prologue about how long various scene changes could take and how the play was kind of written with that in mind. But we can kind of infer from the first line of this that this was supposed to be a pretty quick transition of Mercutio exits making fun of Romeo, and then Romeo comes forward and it's like, he doesn't even know, man. He dressed at scars that never felt a wound.
That is so ironic a line, because he's saying like, oh, he's making fun of something he doesn't know how painful it is, but scars that never felt a wound don't exist, because without a wound there isn't a scar.
Well, I think it's he that never felt a wound jests at scars.
Okay.
Like he has no clue what love is like.
He's never been hurt.
I see. Yeah, Romeo's a battle-torn war veteran who comes home. And Mercutio.
Yeah.
This line is something I would have written in a book of poetry when I was like 13. Like, hell yeah.
Like, yeah.
They don't get it.
They don't get it.
There's also a lot of dissing of the moon in this chapter. I'm not how I feel about it.
Yeah.
It's just because Romeo sets it up, right?
But even Juliet's like, oh, the inconstant moon.
That part was weird. I thought that was like a weird.
What's because the moon changes shape?
No, I know, but I thought it was like the monthly cycles. I thought
I took it as like the moon isn't constant. So if you're like, my love is like the moon, it sounds like my love is not constant.
Yeah, because the monthly cycles isn't like from full moon to new moon to full moon.
Right.
It all depends on the cycle.
I don't think it does. I don't think the cycle of the moon has changed in any noticeable way for a couple million years.
Yeah, I think
if the moon skipped a period.
And then it gave birth to a baby moon. That would be nice.
That'd be sick.
I couldn't tell if this was like old, sexism stuff, but yeah, you guys, it's probably just the shape of the moon, like you're saying.
Yeah, like that the moon is constantly changing its face. Like sometimes some of it is shadowed or in obscurity, so it has like that context of being like not true or not completely transparent.
Yeah,
Right.
Normally I'd be pro trying to read a period joke in there because Shakespeare's always doing that kind of thing. But I think in this case, since Juliet is, I guess that monthly changes in her circled orb, the gendering of the moon maybe makes it kind of a joking reference.
You're right.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, I think, honestly, the only reason they rag on the moon is because Romeo sets up Juliet is the sun to say that she's bright. And Shakespeare, all of his scenes, the language has a contract that he sets very early on. And it's like a metaphor or an image that he likes. And then every character plays off that image and develops it and makes jokes about it and does things related to it, but they never deviate from it. So I think that's the only, I think Shakespeare literally just wrote it in this order. And that's why he's like, okay, the moon is anti-love and the sun is a symbol of their love. So they're just going to play off that the whole time.
And that's still how a lot of basic script writing gets done. I mean, think of every sitcom episode. They set up the running elements in the first couple minutes, and then they keep revisiting it throughout, so you get the repetition and variation.
Yeah, I would say that's what makes Shakespeare very modern. Is he does contracts really well. He knows what he's setting up his audience to expect. Sometimes because he just tells them they're going to die at the end. So he had it easy compared to us nowadays, but he's good at making contracts and fulfilling them in a fun way. And that's been good storytelling for ages and ages. And that's probably never going to change.
Mm.
So, yeah, I agree.
I also I think we were talking about John Donne a couple of weeks ago, talking about The Flea. I'm a big fan of the weird Jacobean and Elizabethan tendency of wanting to be various people, like wanting to be objects so you can be close to someone else.
No.
Because, I mean, it extends well.
Let me be your glove, that one.
But yeah, he's like, oh, I wish I were her glove. John Donne's like,
I wish I
oh
were
man,
that
John Donne's like, oh, so it'd be cool if a flea bit us both, and then our blood would mingle in the flea, and our essence. Would
freaking,
it's a second-hand kiss.
But see, for me, it's also just. Well, I'm trying to remember what other, because then John Keats has wishing that he were a ray of moonlight on his lover's bosom, and then King Charles wanted to be Camilla's tampon. So really, King Charles, a modern day Shakespeare.
A modern day Shakespeare.
Yeah, that was a horrible thing.
Shot across the bow at King Charles III.
I don't know if you'll agree that's a horrible thing. There's no discussion in that one.
But yeah, he does do that a lot. He wants to be sleep and peace because sleep is on her eyes and peace is in her breast. Nice place to be.
What a nice place.
We're not quite at tampon levels, but we're at bosom level.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I'd like to stay there and not get a tampon level.
Third base.
I don't know. I'm sure if they existed in 1592, Shakespeare would have referred to them. Strikes me as that kind of guy.
Yeah, he's just that type.
I want to make a shout out to Juliet. I really love Juliet's character in this play, and I read an edition of this play that did not have such a good Juliet, so I had a very low. She just read like a caricature in high school from the version we had that I was just complaining about. And in this one, she has a great thing where she's like, at lovers' perjuries, they say Jove laughs. And she's telling this to Romeo, who started off the play totally ditching Rosaline as soon as he saw Juliet. So it's very wise of her to be like, hey, Romeo, like, why don't you really think about this before making all these promises?
Right.
Well, it's also because then you get a bit of Jove in this case is a reference to Jupiter or Zeus.
Oh, it's Jove, not Jovi. Right.
Yeah. So Zeus laughing at lovers running around lying and cheating on one another is also obviously ironic. So you get that other kind of indirect jab at Romeo with his inconstancy by drawing an association with the most famous cheater in human culture.
That pagan deity famous for being a horn dog.
So this might be a little cheesy, but I will say the what's in a name, that which we call a rose, to me is very, very romantic and sweet. And it's very timeless because every single romance story that we still love today is about love despite the odds and the challenges. And this play to me is very much that, with like the whole who cares what other people think, like we might die, but we still love each other because we love each other. And the what's in a name line is so famous because of that, but it's one of those lines where it makes me feel like Shakespeare is still fun to read nowadays. Cause I'm like, it's such a good setup and execution of like, the I'm 14, this is deep philosophizing, but it's also a compliment to call Juliet sweet again and stuff. So I just really like it.
I agree. And I mean, I think we talked about this before, but it's like, if you can get in this state of mind and take it seriously, it's emotional and it hits you. I mean, like when you're watching a Disney movie, like if you watch Cinderella, you're not thinking about how they only spent 15 minutes together. You're like, oh, they're in love and they deserve to be together. You get in it and you want them to be together and you're like, yes, it is love. I believe it.
This is love.
And if you could, it's hard to do with this because, we keep ragging on it and they are such kids and, it's been done, but it's like,
I think that's why. Yeah, I think that's why, like, you get invested despite yourself, even if you're a cynical adult like we are. Is that, oh my God, look at these idiot kids, but it's still really cute. because they're kids, and like to some degree it's innocent and they're experiencing this for the first time. It's very endearing to see. At the same time we look at it with our jaded adult experience.
See, I mean, I guess I gotta say this. Maybe if I see dumb teens in love, I don't tend to wish for them. I still wish it works out.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Like, aw, that's cute. I hope they have fun.
I hope they have fun.
Maybe I can maybe I can say this with the confidence of a married person. I don't exactly. I do not delight in other people's relational misery.
Yeah. I think the cynicism just comes from like experience of like been there. Here I am, not in that teen relationship, and like that's pretty good. So.
It might just be cringe, like thinking about how you were at that age and people you were into who you may or may not regret being into.
I was Romeo. I tried to be so bad. I was like, Romeo never gave up, so I should never stop trying to hit on women who don't like me.
Nah.
That was not right.
Yep, you learn your lesson. Like, I'm a creep.
Oh, also, I was thinking about this. The romance book industry is the most lucrative in at everything you can publish. If it's a romance book, you might make a lot of money. But for all of our personal tastes, I think if we do like romance, we usually like it as a subplot and not the main plot. And so when it's the main focus, it can feel a little hard not to make fun of it, because we're romance is great in stories, but you have to like it a lot to have it be the only thing happening. And I think all of us, when romance is like the main focus, the cynical part kicks in and we're like, oh, don't you love her?
No, you love me? Okay.
On that point, like most romance plots are about them getting together. Like the traditional romance book plots don't really show them for very long after they're together, unless it's like then they break up in the third act and then get together. But like they get together so quickly. I don't know. Like obviously it's a romance, but that part is kind of missing.
I mean, I guess one thing I will say, I think there's an element of that though, that romance as a commercial genre is also very modern. I mean, Georgette Heyer was writing at like the turn of the century, and then Harlequin started, and I forget when Harlequin started in like the 40s or 50s, when it was the wife of a grocery store and pharmacy owner basically convinced it was a wife and daughter who convinced her husband of like, hey, look, if you create an avenue for books like these to be published and sell them in your grocery stores where housewives spend a lot of their time, you will turn a huge profit. I mean, the for the most part, excluding certain early writers like Georgette Heyer, commercial romance hit the bookshelves in like our grandparents' lifetimes. So I think there's an extent to which a lot of the tropes and elements like that are hard to reflect back at this. Because I mean, I'll say this: I'm enough of a romance fan. I like Georgette Heyer books, but
really underestimated my romance.
But I think in this case, there's an interesting element of, because we're talking about the love being the main thing and them getting together very quickly. But I think, and this is kind of what keeps being alluded to in the sort of scene summaries in each chorus, where there's no real distinction between like the romance plot and the ambient plot of the Capulet Montague conflict, in a way that I think modern romance fiction tends to have this arbitrary distinction between there's the romance subplot and then the main plot, or there's the main romance plot and then some ambient subplot where they're kind of kept apart. So I think that's an interesting thing looking back at fiction that predates the commercialization of the romance genre in the 50s. Because even throughout this, it is entirely predicated on them referring to their broader family feud.
I just bought one of my first true romance books at a book fair. It's called My Mechanical Romance.
What?
And I thought it was so cute, and I listened to the author talk, and I got it signed. And basically, it's about like this normal girl who doesn't do science meeting up with the head of the robotics club. So I was like, oh, it's my life.
But Tina, how will you be able to imagine someone doing that?
Right.
I'd like to give a shout out to the website Smart Bitches Trashy Books. Pretty okay place to browse around and look at romance recs and reviews.
Thanks for sponsoring us.
Nope.
Not
It's an actual
sponsored.
website. It's an actual
Obliged
website.
Maybe
obliged
you
to say that we are.
Oh my god.
Well, the romance part in this, even though this is a tragedy, this romantic part is very romantic and it's sweet. It's nice. It's hard to be intimate with it because all of us have different preferences and tastes when reading romance, but it definitely holds up as very romantic still. The way they flirt with each other is very cute.
Yeah, I think even though we all know it's going to end badly, I think the play successfully has us rooting for the young lovers despite bad foreknowledge.